When you look across the NBA landscape tonight, there are a few matchups that immediately jump off the page. Not just because of the spreads or the totals, but because of how the current injury situations, recent form, pace trends, and matchup-specific dynamics line up to create clear opportunities. This slate gives us several spots where elite players are positioned to take advantage of defensive weaknesses, fatigue, or rotations that simply aren't holding up. So let's break it down game by game and get into the data-driven angle behind each matchup. Now, as always, before we dive deep, it's worth reminding everyone that supporting the channel keeps these daily breakdowns coming. Less than 25% of you watching are actually subscribed. If you find value in the analysis, if you enjoy the picks, and if you want to help the channel grow toward that 2,000 goal, right now sitting at 1162, hit that subscribe button. It takes 1 second and helps in a huge way. We'll start with the Bucks versus Wizards, where Milwaukee walks in as 10.5-point favorites. Giannis is listed as probable, and Alex Sir for Washington is questionable, which matters more than people think. Giannis returned on Friday, logging 28 minutes, and then insisted on playing the back-to-back, though he only went 19 minutes because the Bucks were cruising in a blowout. Even in limited minutes, he's been outrageously efficient, scoring with ease, finishing through contact, and showing that he didn't lose rhythm during the brief absence. His scoring line requires him to get to 29+, and considering the Wizards give up the most points in the NBA, his opportunities should be abundant. If Sir ends up missing the game, that interior resistance evaporates even further. Sir is young, but he's long, athletic, and capable of producing shot contests that slow down elite finishers. Without him, the Wizards' rim protection becomes almost non-existent. And let's not forget the reference point. In October, Giannis put 37 points on this same Washington team while playing only 27 minutes, essentially the same workload he just logged on Friday. In a competitive game, he's unlikely to be stuck at 19 minutes again unless Milwaukee blows them out, but the matchup sets up beautifully regardless. Everything points toward Giannis controlling the paint and scoring efficiently. Behind him, one of the best value angles on the Bucks is AJ Green over his threes. The deeper you dig into the numbers, the more this one jumps out. He's hit 3 or more threes in 76% of games this season. When Giannis plays, defenses collapse even more into the interior, which creates wide-open perimeter looks for players like Green. In the 2 games since Giannis returned, AJ Green hit 6 and 5 threes, which is elite efficiency. His attempts are consistently 7 to 8 per game, and earlier this season versus Washington he connected on 3 more. The hit rates are where this truly stands out. When playing with Giannis, Green has an 80% hit rate on this line, 4 out of every 5 games. On the road this year, for whatever reason, he shoots even better, hitting in 89% of his road games. Combine the two. On the road with Giannis, he has a 100% hit rate this season. So statistically, everything lines up. Elite opportunity, elite percentage, elite matchup. For Washington, there isn't a player who stands out with the same level of clarity. A name you might look toward is Chris Middleton, who had a strong game earlier this season against Washington, easily clearing his points line. But the context is different. That earlier game was in Milwaukee, where he played for years and has comfort inside that building. This one is in Washington. He's been inconsistent, and his form has fluctuated too much to trust a line. So for the Wizards, there's no clean angle. For the side, with Giannis back in rhythm, the Bucks facing the worst defense in the league, and Washington lacking interior presence, the lean is Milwaukee to win big. Next we move to Clippers versus Heat, where the Heat are 5.5-point favorites. Bogdanović is out for the Clippers, and Jamie Jaquez Jr. is questionable, though he practiced Sunday, which suggests he's more likely leaning toward probable. Norman Powell already had his emotional revenge game against the Clippers, hitting his points line last time they met. Barely, and you can expect Kawhi Leonard to take that personally and try to lock him up defensively tonight. The clearer angle for this matchup is Tyler Herro's points and rebounds. Since returning from injury, Herro has been sharp, aggressive, and impactful, clearing this combined line in all 3 games he has played so far this year. He's not on a minutes limit, he's rebounding well, and the matchup works in his favor. The Clippers give up the 5th most points to shooting guards, and while they're middle of the pack in rebounds allowed 16th, Herro has been cleaning up rebounds in space and creating second chance opportunities. With Miami playing at a faster pace this season, significantly faster than last year's slow grind, Herro is positioned well to take advantage. On the Clippers' side, Kawhi Leonard has erupted the past 2 games, dropping 39 and 30 points. Miami gives up the 9th most points overall, and with their pace picking up and their offense becoming deeper and more balanced, the game environment is friendlier for scoring than last year. Kawhi already posted 27 points against the Heat earlier this season, and though he's been on a 30-minute limit recently, his shot volume is identical to when he was playing 35 minutes. He's simply taking more shots per minute, maximizing his floor time. Given his current form and Miami's defensive trends, Kawhi has another strong scoring spot. As for the lean, Miami now has multiple active scorers in good rhythm: Andrew Wiggins heating up, Tyler Herro, Norman Powell, Bam Adebayo, and possibly Jaquez returning. The Clippers have been inconsistent all season, so the lean is Miami at home with the 5.5 points. Now we head to Hornets vs. Nets, where the Hornets are 4.5-point favorites. Trey Mann is questionable for Charlotte, Terrence Mann is questionable for the Nets, and both Michael Porter Jr. and Noah Clowney are probable. Both teams have bottom 10 defenses. The Nets give up the 7th most points, and the Hornets give up the 8th most. When these teams met in October, Charlotte won by 19, and this matchup sets up another high-opportunity spot for key Hornets players. A very clean play in this matchup is LaMelo Ball's assists. His assist line hasn't been bumped despite the matchup and the recent context. 2 of his recent poor assist outings came in difficult situations: the Raptors, who have been elite defensively this year, and a blowout loss to the Knicks where rotations fell apart. Against a bad defensive team like the Nets, who allow the 5th most assists, LaMelo had 8 assists earlier this season. This is a perfect bounce-back environment for him. Another strong Hornets angle is center Ryan Kalkbrenner. His points line stunned me. It dropped 2 full points down to where he needs only 3 made baskets instead of 4. He has cleared this line in all but 3 games this season. The Nets allow the 8th most points to centers, and Kalkbrenner had 10 points in the earlier meeting. The drop in line doesn't make logical sense based on hit rates and matchup data, but it enhances the value. -120 for a line he hits at an elite rate is extremely appealing. Then you have Colin Sexton, who's been scoring at a consistent and underrated level, hitting his points line 75% of the time this season. He put up 15 points against the Nets earlier this year and is averaging nearly 19 points over his last 5 games. Another excellent matchup. As for the Nets, nothing stands out clearly. Michael Porter Jr. has talent but has been unreliable in terms of consistent output or trustworthy lines. So for now, Nets props are off the board. For the spread, Charlotte has recently beaten the Raptors and the Bulls, 2 respectable teams, while the Nets historically thrive only when they're getting huge spreads. Here it's just 4.5. That leans toward the Hornets covering. Next is Mavericks vs. Nuggets, with Denver as 10.5-point favorites. Dallas remains without Derek Lively, and Daniel Gafford is doubtful, which is a massive blow to their center rotation. When the Mavericks have their full center rotation, they can at least stay afloat defensively, but without them, they struggle significantly. Anthony Davis is listed probable but likely limited. P.J. Washington and Brandon Williams are questionable. Jokic is probable, and the Nuggets have no new return from injury updates. If P.J. Washington plays, his rebounds are a great angle. He's hit his rebounds line in 7 straight games and nearly 80% of games this season. Denver is a tough rebounding matchup overall, but context matters. 6 of the last 7 power forwards to face the Nuggets have hit their rebounds line. So they don't collect massive totals, but they meet their lines, which is all we need. Washington has been consistent, active on the glass, and benefits from Dallas missing multiple bigs. For Denver, with Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun out, Cameron Johnson has stepped up with a 100% hit rate on his P+ line. Peyton Watson has also produced well, hitting 4 of his last 5, but he took only 4 shots last game, so Johnson becomes the more reliable option. Dallas is allowing the 3rd most rebounds in the NBA and is middle of the pack defensively against points, making Johnson's mixed production angle appealing. You can even go PR instead of PRA if you want to stay closer to his cleaner hit rates. For the lean, Dallas being without Gafford and Lively while Anthony Davis is limited creates a worst-case matchup against Jokic. Denver has too much interior advantage and overall balance, so the lean is Nuggets to cover -10.5. Finally, we hit Cavaliers versus Pacers, where Cleveland is 5.5-point favorites, but this line comes with enormous context. Cleveland is on a back-to-back and has been playing extremely disappointing basketball this season. Injuries, inconsistent rotations, and minutes management from Coach Atkinson have killed their continuity. Jared Allen is out for a week, Lonzo Ball is out for Sunday, Sam Merrill is out, and Larry Nance is out. Lonzo could play this one, but Garland has not played in back-to-backs, which means he is unlikely to suit up. Lines aren't posted yet because of the back-to-back, but there is one clear Pacers angle: Pascal Siakam's points. He scored 26 against the Cavs on November 21, and he has posted 22 or more in 7 of his last 8 games. His matchup tonight is unbelievable. Cleveland gives up the most points to power forwards in the NBA, a shocking stat given they have an elite defensive big on their roster. The Cavs simply cannot contain scoring power forwards this year. Combine that with Cleveland being on a back-to-back and missing key defenders, and Siakam has a prime scoring spot. As for Cavs players, it's tough to recommend anyone. Donovan Mitchell and Garland just played heavy minutes in a close loss to the Celtics. Fatigue and minutes restrictions are going to be factors, and we need to wait to see who sits. Without clarity, no Cavs props stand out. For the lean, I'm taking the Pacers. The Cavaliers have repeatedly failed to show resilience. They continue losing games I fade them in, and until they prove otherwise, the value remains on fading Cleveland. Indiana at home is the play. And if you're enjoying this breakdown and want more daily expert predictions, be sure to support the channel. Likes and comments go a long way in helping us reach new viewers. Even dropping a simple W helps push the content forward. Let's see if we can hit 500 likes on this one. Next, the Hawks go into this matchup against the Pistons as 9.5-point underdogs, and it's pretty easy to understand why the number opened this high. Atlanta is coming off a grueling double overtime battle against the Sixers, a game in which many of their starters logged 40+ minutes. They now have to turn around immediately, travel, and face a Detroit team that is fully rested, healthier, and playing at home. To make things even more complicated for Atlanta, Porzingis missed their last game due to an illness, and that has become a lingering issue for him dating all the way back to last year's postseason stretch. Even if he plays here, you're not exactly expecting someone fighting an illness to carry full volume, though ironically, he might be the only fresh Hawk on the floor just because he sat out the previous game. Detroit comes into the matchup in much better shape physically. Jalen Duren and Karis LeVert are both listed as probable, while Duncan Robinson enters the game as questionable. And the big storyline from a betting standpoint revolves around Cade Cunningham, who now walks into one of the softest statistical matchups any point guard could hope for, especially against a tired roster. Atlanta gives up the 10th most points, the 4th most rebounds, and the 9th most assists to opposing point guards. Cade already showed earlier this season what he can do against this same Hawks group, returning from injury in mid-November and posting a strong the 25th of June 10 line. The books dropped his double-double price to minus 115, which is eye-catching considering he has recorded a double-double in 8 of his last 10 games, already notched one against Atlanta this season, and delivered a double-double in all 4 meetings against them last year. At minus 115, it's hard not to like that number based on pure consistency, matchup strength, and the fatigue factor working massively in his favor. On the Atlanta side, there are players worth monitoring, but the context makes it tricky to commit to any overs here. Someone like Jalen Johnson has been playing extremely well, and even on a back-to-back he's tough to fade because of how consistent he's been. But he also logged heavy minutes in that double overtime game, and this matchup is legitimately tough from a defensive standpoint. If Porzingis returns, that adds another layer because he tends to eat up shot volume. There was even a previous game where Porzingis took nearly every look in the opening quarter, basically eliminating opportunities for other Atlanta options, exactly the type of situation that makes player props volatile when a high-usage player returns to the lineup. Taking everything into account, fatigue, travel, defensive matchup, and Detroit's health, the lean here goes strongly toward the Pistons at home. It's simply hard to envision the Hawks dragging themselves through a double OT game, getting on a plane, and then answering against a fresher, healthier, more stable Detroit squad. The next matchup brings us to the Bulls taking on the Magic, with Orlando listed as 8.5-point favorites. What's odd about this game is that neither team is on a back-to-back and there are no new significant injuries on either side. New is the key word there, because obviously Orlando is still without Banchero, but that's already baked into their identity by now. The strange part is that the books have been slow to release lines for individual props, which usually suggests that something is holding up the process, often an injury the public hasn't been informed of yet. It's not because of scheduling, so there's definitely a possibility that some news breaks before the full board opens. For context, the Bulls actually beat the Magic earlier this season, winning that matchup by 18 points. Since then, however, Chicago has struggled to cover spreads. They've failed to cover in 6 straight games, while the Magic have been the complete opposite. Slow start early in the year, but now they've covered 8 of their last 10. That's a pretty dramatic contrast in momentum between two teams that are trending in opposite directions. From a matchup standpoint, the Bulls give up the 4th most points, and that alone creates a fertile environment for Orlando's scorers once the lines are posted. On the flip side, the Magic have weaknesses guarding opposing guards, which opens the door for players such as Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, and Kevin Huerter. It's the kind of matchup where you circle several possible overs but need the final injury report and prop board before actually committing. Since this is one of those games where odds were still unavailable, I'd recommend checking the pinned comment in the morning for updated picks once the lines drop and the injury news, if any, is clarified. But based on current form, the lean here goes to the Magic at home. They're playing well, the Bulls are not, and momentum absolutely matters when both teams are relatively healthy. Now let's get into one of the more intriguing back-to-back rematch situations on the slate, the Rockets versus the Jazz. These two teams just played on Sunday, and both will stay put with no travel needed. They're basically running it back in the same building, and in situations like this, the team that got blown out typically comes back with adjustments, film review, tactical changes, improved execution, something. But the question for this matchup is whether adjustments can actually overcome the gap we saw on Sunday. Houston didn't just win, they dominated. The Rockets took every one of the first 3 quarters by 9 or more points, and the only quarter they didn't control was the fourth, which was garbage time. Essentially, they were up nearly 30 entering the final period. That kind of top-to-bottom dominance doesn't usually get flipped overnight. So while the spread sits around the same number as Sunday, it's fair to wonder what exactly Utah can change in less than 24 hours that would meaningfully shift the outcome. Props offer some interesting angles, starting with Steven Adams. He has not played in any back-to-back situations this season, so there is uncertainty regarding his availability. But if he plays, his rebound line stands out immediately. He logged just 16 minutes on Sunday yet pulled down 12 rebounds. His season hit rate on that rebound line is 87%, which is extremely high. If 16 minutes is genuinely enough to keep him out of the second leg of a back-to-back, then conditioning might be a bigger issue than expected. But assuming he plays, that number is very appealing because his presence collapses the glass even in limited minutes. On the Utah side, a name worth highlighting is rookie Ace Bailey, who dropped 19 points and cleared his points line. Despite the Rockets being a very tough defensive team, 9 of the last 10 small forwards to face Houston have covered their points line. That's a remarkable trend for a difficult matchup, but ultimately, all that matters is whether the line gets cleared, not whether it's easy or complicated. Bailey has shown strong flashes on back-to-backs as well. In his first career back-to-back, he struggled with only 4 points, but after that he delivered 20 and 21 in his next 2. He's clearly capable of stepping up on short rest, and he's young enough to handle the quick turnaround physically. From Houston's defensive perspective, their primary concern is stopping Keyonte George and Lauri Markkanen, not Bailey, which inadvertently gives him more opportunity. Another angle to consider is the Keyonte George under on his PRA. He's been consistently hitting PRA lines all season except for this last matchup on Sunday. In that game, he was questionable with an illness but still tried to suit up. He ended up going 0 for 6 from the floor, finishing with only 1 rebound and 2 assists in 19 minutes before the game got out of hand. If he's still fighting the same illness, this becomes a difficult spot. Houston's perimeter defense is physical, disciplined, and Amen Thompson is likely to spend time guarding him again. Given how thoroughly Houston controlled the game and how George's illness affected him, the under becomes the logical lean, unless he ends up sitting out entirely. As for the matchup itself, it would be great to make a case for the underdog flipping the script in a rematch, but Houston's domination was so complete that you can't ignore it. Until Utah proves they can match Houston's defensive pressure, tempo, and physicality, I have to lean Rockets again, and I'd expect another double-digit win, something in the 13-point range. We close out with Suns vs Lakers, with Los Angeles listed as 5.5-point favorites. The Suns have no new significant injuries, and Grayson Allen returned last game, adding more stability to their rotation. The Lakers, however, are on a back-to-back. LeBron sat out Sunday, so the expectation is that he plays here because the absence was simply injury management for the first leg. Additional lineup shuffling is possible because the Lakers may rest someone else, and DeAndre Ayton feels like the most likely candidate to sit if they decide to manage minutes again. Luka has played on a back-to-back already this season, so he might suit up, but nothing is guaranteed in these kinds of scheduling clusters. What we do know is that Luka loves matching up with Devin Booker. He treats those games like a personal duel, and historically he goes off in those head-to-head matchups. But at the moment, the only available lines belong to LeBron, and those don't offer much value yet. We'll need the full board and the injury report before locking in anything concrete. As for the matchup lean, Phoenix has been surprisingly good defensively this season. They aren't on a back-to-back, they're healthier, and they come in with far more rest than the Lakers. That alone puts them in a strong position. Considering the Lakers are playing during the filming window and dealing with back-to-back fatigue and possible rotations, the lean goes to the Suns to keep this game tight or possibly steal a win on the road. That wraps the complete breakdown for this slate. If you appreciate deep analysis, matchup context, betting angles, and data-driven insights without the fluff, make sure you're locked in with Beyond the Box Score. Every day we break down the numbers that actually matter, track the trends that win long-term, and help you approach each slate with the mindset of a true bettor, not just a highlight watcher. If you enjoy this style of breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a slate. This is Beyond the Box Score, where smart bettors come to sharpen their edge. I'll see you in the next one.